The thick scent of ink and parchment fills the air, swirling in the dim light of a flickering candle. In the shadowed corner of a forgotten monastery, a lone scribe sits hunched, his trembling hand poised above the page. The world beyond the stone walls is muffled, swallowed by the weight of centuries and silence. His quill dances across the page, leaving behind words that will never see the light of day, words that could shatter the very foundations of power. The faint murmur of monks chanting echoes softly, their voices rising in prayer, unaware or perhaps indifferent to the rebellion taking place in their midst. The walls of the monastery, ancient and cold, hold the secrets of 1,000 lives, but none more dangerous than the one the scribe now whispers to the inked page. A book, once written in the light, now formed in the shadows. The scribe does not speak of gods, nor kings, nor the sacred tenets of faith. No, he writes of truths too dangerous to be spoken aloud, truths that the church would bury beneath layers of dogma, wrapped tightly in the silence of centuries. Each stroke of the pen is a defiance. His hand trembles, not from fear of the task, but from the weight of what he knows. One slip, one mistake. The punishment is swift. The cost is his life. Still, the scribe's eyes burn with a fire he cannot extinguish. He is no longer the innocent man who once sat in prayer beneath the light of the altar, the light that now casts long shadows across the cold stone floor. He has become something else. An outlaw, a heretic, a keeper of forbidden knowledge hidden within the worn pages of a book, a rebellion of thought, not of swords and spears, but of the mind. He presses the quill down harder, a sound that seems to echo against the stillness, and for a moment the world outside seems to disappear. He does not think of the church, nor of its might. He does not think of the kings who sit in their palaces, guarded by their wealth, their armies, and their priests. He thinks only of the words, the truth that cannot die. He knows deep down that the moment he finishes writing, everything changes. The words will live even if the scribe does not. The book, his book, will be a spark, small, quiet, but powerful enough to ignite a revolution. Not one of blood and steel, but one of ideas. A revolution that will awaken minds, unbind souls, and change the very fabric of history. As his quill scratches the last of the forbidden words onto the page, the candle flickers, casting an eerie light across the room. The scribe's heart races. He senses something. A presence. The door behind him creaks open, and the sharp sound of footsteps falls heavy in the stillness. The scribe's breath catches in his throat. His pulse quickens. The shadows grow longer, and with them, the weight of his secret presses down on him like a stone. He quickly covers the book as if the simple act of shielding it could protect the truth from the darkness closing in around him. His hand still trembles, but not from fear of his task. No, it is the fear of what will happen if this book remains hidden forever. He has given everything to write it, his soul, his safety, his place in the world. And now it must be protected. The truth must be heard. But the footsteps grow closer, louder. The scribe holds his breath, his mind racing. Who is it? A monk? A fellow scribe? Or someone sent to silence him forever? He doesn't know. He cannot know. But in his heart, he feels the cold weight of the question, what will happen to knowledge, to truth, to the very freedom of thought if it remains locked away in these walls? The door creaks wider, and the shadow at the threshold grows darker. The scribe looks down at his work, his creation, his rebellion. The ink has dried, but the danger has just begun. He knows that if he remains silent, if he hides, the world will never know the truth. And so he raises his head, a defiant spark in his eyes. Who is it? He calls out, his voice low, yet steady, as if he has already made his peace with whatever fate awaits him. The answer, when it comes, will not be one he expects. But in that moment, as the door fully opens, he knows that the battle for knowledge, for freedom, has only just begun. The bell tower tolls 3 times, its mournful chimes slicing through the thick, damp fog that clings to the village like a shroud. In the quiet stillness, its echoes reverberate through the narrow streets, stirring the shadows that hide the faces of the few souls still awake. From the gloom, a solitary figure emerges, a woman cloaked in tattered robes, her face hidden beneath the fabric's folds. In her hand, a bundle of ancient scrolls presses heavily against her chest. The parchment is weathered, its edges frayed and fragile, as though the weight of time itself is eager to tear it apart. Each step she takes is deliberate, but each one carries the weight of a burden that cannot be set down. She moves through the fog with purpose, her feet sinking into the muddy earth beneath her. The forest beyond the village lies in wait, dark, endless, and cold. A place where knowledge, like the woman herself, is banished to die in silence, where the trees stand like silent sentinels, bearing witness to the decay of forgotten truths. These scrolls she carries, fragile as they are, speak of a world that exists beyond the narrow teachings of the church, a world that breathes life into the suffocating air of dogma, a world where knowledge is not chained but free. Her eyes, sharp yet burdened with a quiet determination, trace the edges of the scrolls as though they might whisper their secrets aloud. These words, these dangerous, forbidden words, are heresy in the eyes of those who hold the power of God in their hands. But to her, they are not just ink on parchment, they are the very fabric of her soul, the lifeline that binds her to the truth of who she is, the truth that no one else dares to speak. As she passes the silhouette of the monastery, its towering stone walls loom like an immovable force, an embodiment of the oppression she once knew. The very air around it feels heavy, as if the building itself holds the weight of every whispered prayer and every muffled cry of submission. She glances over her shoulder, her gaze lingering for a fleeting moment on the familiar stones that once held her captive. The fear that once gripped her heart has long since been replaced by something more dangerous: resolve. She knows that her path is one of solitude, but it is not one of fear. The winds of change stir in her chest, carrying with them the scent of something old and long forgotten, a promise that a revolution, quiet and unseen, has already begun. Her footsteps are soft, but her heart beats like the thundering of war drums. She carries not a weapon, but something far more dangerous: the truth. The scrolls in her arms are the seeds of rebellion, not of the flesh, but of the mind. She will not be the last to hold them. These words, these fragments of a larger world, will be the fire that lights the darkness, the spark that ignites the hidden corners of the human spirit. She does not seek glory. She does not seek recognition. Her journey is one of necessity, one of survival in the face of erasure. Her soul aches for the ones who will come after her, the ones who will carry the flame further than she ever could. She moves, not as a woman in hiding, but as one in the midst of a great awakening. The path ahead is uncertain, the shadows long and threatening, yet she is not alone. Even in this forgotten place, where the wind whispers of ancient things and the trees shudder in silence, there are others like her. There are those who hear the call of knowledge, who have seen the world beyond the walls of their prison. These scrolls are not just her burden, they are a message, a promise that the world will not remain in darkness forever. The fire she carries in her chest will not die with her. It will burn brighter as it passes through the hands of those who dare to learn, to question, and to rise. As she enters the forest, the trees close in around her, their ancient branches reaching for the heavens. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and the soft rustling of leaves. Every step she takes, the silence presses in closer. The forest seems to welcome her, but it does not forgive. The darkness here is not just the absence of light, but the absence of hope. It is a place where even the most sacred of knowledge is forgotten, lost to time, to fear, to the flames that consume all things. But she does not falter. The scrolls in her arms are not just relics, they are the key to something greater. She knows that what she carries is too dangerous to remain hidden and too important to be destroyed. For in the hands of the wrong people, it could be the end of her world. But in the hands of those who are ready, it will be the beginning of something new. A world where knowledge is no longer the privilege of the few, but the birthright of all. Her heart beats faster as the forest deepens, and the world around her fades into a dense and suffocating darkness. She is not afraid. She is not alone. Her footsteps are the first of many that will follow. For in her heart, she knows this is not the end of her story. It is the beginning of a far greater one. And when the flame of knowledge is finally ignited, it will not be easily extinguished. The wind stirs around her, carrying with it the scent of something ancient and powerful. She takes one last look at the village, her home for so many years, and then, with a breath that feels like the beginning of a new dawn, she steps deeper into the shadows of the forest. The bell tower tolls one last time, its echo fading into the distance, and the woman walks on. The weight of her task is heavy, but her heart is light, with the certainty that the darkness she now walks through will one day give way to light. The cold stone floors are slick with the weight of snow carried in by the travelers who stumble across the threshold of the great hall. The wind howls through the cracks in the ancient walls, a relentless reminder of the world beyond. Inside, the warmth of the hearth crackles, a brief respite against the biting chill outside. The flickering flames cast long shadows across the worn faces of the monks gathered in silence, their forms barely distinguishable beneath the folds of their cowls. Yet one among them is not here simply to pray. His eyes, hidden beneath the shadow of his hood, betray a burden that no monk should bear. A forbidden knowledge, wrapped in fragile parchment, rests deep within his robe, its presence an unspoken defiance. The night is young, yet the air is thick with tension. At the far end of the hall, a book is being read aloud, a text accepted, revered, and held high by the very institution that demands their unwavering submission. Its words echo through the stone hall, their piety unquestioned, their authority absolute. But the monk knows. He knows what lies in the darkest recesses of the abbey, hidden from the faithful, locked away in the depths where no light dares to reach. It is a truth wrapped in words that could fracture the very foundations of everything they believe. A truth that whispers in the dark corners of the abbey like an unspoken prayer, waiting to be heard. As the monk walks quietly through the hall, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of snow beneath him, his mind is heavy with the weight of his dual existence. A man of the cloth. A keeper of secrets. The fire crackles and spits, sending embers dancing into the shadows, creating fleeting illusions of movement on the stone walls. It is in these shadows that the monk hides his rebellion, where ink and parchment are the weapons of a silent war. Each night he spends hiding these books. Each whispered prayer to a God who may not hear him only makes him more entwined in the resistance that stretches across the continent. He is not alone. There are others. They are everywhere. Men and women of faith, their hands stained with ink, their hearts burdened with the weight of forbidden knowledge. They write in silence, copy in secrecy, and bury the words that the church dares not allow to live. They are the silent rebels, the quiet resistance that will one day ignite a fire the church cannot extinguish. These monks, these scribes, these outcasts are the keepers of a truth that has no place in the world they have been forced to live in. Yet they know, as does this monk, that to carry the truth in their hearts is a far greater sin than to ever speak it aloud. And it is this sin that will either destroy them or free them. The monk reaches the door to the inner chambers, the heavy oak creaking under his touch. He pauses for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. Inside, the darkness waits, not for the first time, but each time with a different, more oppressive weight. The scrolls lie hidden in their sacred tombs, their words dangerous beyond measure. One wrong move, one slip of the hand, and the words will be found. The monk knows that if these books are discovered, it will not be a gentle punishment. The fire of the Inquisition will burn hot and swift, and there will be no mercy for those who dare to question, to write, to keep the flame of knowledge alive. But in his heart, the monk feels the stirring of something far more powerful than fear. It is the certainty of the path he has chosen, the quiet rebellion that beats like a drum beneath his chest. The world beyond these walls is changing. The whispers of rebellion have already begun to echo in the streets, in the hearts of those who dare to believe that there is more to life than the church's grasp. The books he hides, these fragile scrolls, these sacred texts, will one day be the foundation of something greater, something beyond the power of the church, beyond the chains of their teachings. The monk knows that his role in this rebellion is not one of glory, but of sacrifice, and he is willing to bear that burden, for the truth is not his to keep. It is his to pass on, to protect, to carry into the next generation where it will burn bright and illuminate the dark corners of the world. As he places the scrolls in the hidden alcove, the weight of their presence settles in his chest. His hands tremble, but not from fear. His mind races with the knowledge of what he has done, what he must do again tomorrow. The church may control the heavens, but it cannot control the minds of those who are willing to look beyond the walls they have built. The fire crackles louder, sending a burst of heat across the hall. The monk steps back into the shadows where he can hear the faint murmur of the others, their prayers lifting up like smoke, rising to a God who may or may not hear them. He watches the flames flicker, the dancing shadows growing long against the stone. In the stillness, the monk can almost hear the voices of those who have come before him, the silent rebels who dared to defy the church, who dared to speak the truths that the world was not ready to hear. The night stretches on, and the monk knows that with every passing hour, the weight of his secret grows heavier. But in his heart, he carries a spark, a flame that will one day catch fire, and when it does, the church will not be able to snuff it out. He steps back from the shadows, his gaze lingering for a moment longer on the hidden scrolls, the forbidden words that will one day change everything. And as he turns to leave the hall, a question lingers in his mind, one that will guide him through every secret, every rebellion, every whispered truth. How long can silence last before it is shattered by the weight of the truth? The morning sun barely breaks through the heavy mist, casting a dim, pale light over the village. The cold air is thick with salt, clinging to the boy's skin as he watches the fishermen return from their daily catch. The rhythm of their labor, the splash of oars, the creaking of nets, feels distant, muted by the fog that wraps itself around the village like a shroud. The boy's bare feet are cold against the cobblestones, each step sending a shiver through him, but his eyes are fixed on the village elder ahead, walking with purpose toward the church. Today, the boy will learn more than the sacred verses of the Bible. Today, the boy will learn the price of knowledge. Inside the stone walls of the church, the air is heavy with incense and age-old prayers. The boy follows the elder through the narrow aisles, the flickering light of candles casting long shadows across the cold stone. The sound of their footsteps echoes in the silence, a steady reminder of the weight that presses upon the boy's chest. The elder, a man whose face is etched with years of wisdom and sorrow, speaks little, but there is a firmness to his voice that the boy knows means something significant. At the altar, the elder stops and turns to face him. With trembling hands, he takes a small bundle wrapped in cloth from within his robe and presses it into the boy's hands. The boy's heart races as he unravels the cloth. Inside, resting like a forbidden treasure, lies a small, leather-bound book. Its cover is worn, its pages yellowed with age. The words inside are almost unreadable, the ink faded, but there is a power in its presence, a weight that is far greater than the boy could understand in that moment. This book, the elder whispers, his voice low and cautious, is a secret meant for no other eyes but yours. His fingers brush the edges of the book, lingering for a moment as though this very touch is a sacrilege. What is written inside goes against everything the church holds dear. You must never let anyone else see it. Never let its words fall from your lips. These are not the teachings of our God, but of a world where men are free to think for themselves. The boy stares at the book, his fingers trembling as he runs them over the cracked leather. In that moment, the weight of what he holds becomes clearer. This is not a simple book. It is a weapon, silent, hidden, powerful. It is a truth wrapped in danger. It holds the power to change everything, but in the hands of the wrong person, it could also destroy everything. The elder's eyes meet his, filled with both sorrow and defiance, as if he too can feel the burden of the knowledge he has passed on. Remember, he says softly, to possess knowledge is to possess power, but to use it, to speak it, is to risk everything. It is a price few can afford to pay. The boy's heart hammers in his chest as the elder's words settle into his mind. The fire of curiosity, the thirst for truth, burns deep within him, yet the danger that lingers in the air is palpable. He understands now that this book is not meant to be spoken of aloud. It is meant to be hidden, passed in whispers from one secret keeper to another. A chain of knowledge, fragile as it may be, stretching across generations, carrying with it the hope that one day, in a world far beyond the reach of the church's iron grip, men and women might be free to think, to question, to choose their own path. But the boy can feel it in the pit of his stomach, the danger of what he now carries. There are forces in the world, unseen and powerful, that will stop at nothing to silence these words. The price of knowledge is never without consequence, and the boy knows, even now, that there are those who would see him dead rather than allow these teachings to spread. The church will never tolerate such rebellion, and it will hunt down anyone foolish enough to speak the words held within this book. As the elder begins to turn away, the boy is left standing in the cold shadows of the church, his mind spinning with the weight of his new secret. The air feels heavier now, charged with the knowledge of what has been entrusted to him. He looks down at the small book in his hands, knowing that his life will never be the same. The sounds of the village beyond the church seem distant now, muffled by the enormity of what has just transpired. The boy's gaze lingers on the worn pages, the secrets of a world not meant for men like him, not meant for a world bound by silence and fear. Yet deep in his heart, the truth stirs, a quiet promise that knowledge will not be easily contained. The elder's voice lingers in his mind, a warning that cannot be shaken. To use it is to risk your life. Yet even in that warning, the boy feels something else, something powerful, something impossible to ignore. A spark of defiance, a spark of hope. As the boy steps out of the church into the biting morning air, the weight of the book still heavy in his hands, he feels the world shift beneath his feet. The church and its teachings no longer seem as all-encompassing as they once did. The book he holds is not just ink on parchment. It is a world waiting to be unlocked, a truth waiting to be spoken, and a rebellion waiting to take root. The boy's heart pounds in his chest as he walks through the village. The fog hangs heavy, but it does not seem as suffocating as before. The fishermen's boats creak softly in the harbor, and the scent of salt lingers in the air. But none of it matters anymore. The boy's path is set. He does not yet know what awaits him, nor how the journey will unfold, but one thing is certain: he will carry this secret. He will guard it. And one day, the truth will find its way into the light. The price of knowledge has already begun to take root within him. But as the boy looks up at the gray sky, he cannot help but wonder, what will the world become when the truth can no longer be hidden? The night is quiet, but the silence is unnatural. It hangs thick in the air, pressing down like a weight, suffocating the world in its stillness. This is not the peaceful calm of dusk, but the kind of silence that descends when something vital is being erased, when a shift occurs that cannot be undone, a moment that marks the end of an era. It is the silence that accompanies the burial of ideas, the eradication of what could have been, what might have been. Something will never be the same again. In the dimly lit workshop of an unknown printer, the silence is broken only by the rhythmic beat of the press. The machine hums and whirs, its gears grinding, its wheels turning with the steady persistence of a heartbeat. The room smells of ink, thick and pungent. But there is something more here than the scent of a simple printing press. The printer's hands are stained black, not just with ink, but with the weight of the words he is printing. These are not the words of simple stories or prayers. No, these are the words that could bring the downfall of kings, the collapse of empires. The printer's hands shake slightly as he feeds each page into the machine. It's a familiar motion, one he's done countless times, but tonight, it feels different. Tonight, each sheet of paper that passes through the press carries with it a gamble that could end in a trial, a confession, or worse. Each page is an act of defiance, an act of rebellion. The words they carry are dangerous, charged with a power that could light a fire of resistance that the church will not be able to extinguish. The ink is dry now, but it is more than just pigment. It is the fuel for a revolution, a quiet storm, gathering strength in the shadows. The printer knows the risks. He has lived his life in the dark, in the places where the light of truth is hidden, locked away from the eyes of the world. He has watched as the flames consumed the books, as men were dragged to the gallows, their crimes nothing more than the audacity to think for themselves. He has heard the cries of the condemned, the pleas for mercy that were never granted. He has seen the fires burn, knowing full well that the words he prints, the thoughts he shares, could one day lead to his own death. But tonight, the printer presses on, knowing there is no turning back. The words that pass through his hands are not just ink on paper, they are the pulse of rebellion, the breath of freedom. Each page that stacks up beside him is a promise that somewhere out there a mind will be freed by the knowledge contained within. These words, though dangerous, are now immortal. They cannot be erased, not now. The ink has dried, and with it, the potential for change has solidified. He looks down at the finished pages, stacked neatly in front of him, their edges crisp, their surfaces carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. The silence in the room deepens, but it is not the same silence that had come before. This silence is no longer an absence of sound. No, this silence is the quiet, steady rhythm of something far more significant. It is the heartbeat of a war fought in shadows, a war for the very right to think. It is a war fought with words, with ink, with paper, tools that may seem humble but are more powerful than swords or shields. In the dim light of the workshop, the printer stands, his eyes fixed on the words he has created, knowing that somewhere in the world, someone will read them. And when that person reads, they will see the truth. They will understand what has been hidden from them, what has been kept locked away by those in power. They will know that the world they live in is not as it seems, that there is more to life than the narrow confines of religious dogma and political control. The ink he has spilled is not just for the few, it is for the many. It is a beacon for those who are lost, a light in the darkness that will guide them to something greater. But as the printer stands, his thoughts turn to the danger that still lurks in the shadows. The church is always watching. They are always listening, always hunting for those who dare to challenge their authority. He has seen the bodies of men and women who once thought like him, their voices silenced by the fires of the Inquisition. He knows what will happen if they discover what he has done. He knows that there will be no mercy for him. And yet, in that moment, as he gazes at the words he has created, he realizes something that fills him with a sense of peace amidst the fear. The words he has printed are no longer just his. They belong to anyone who dares to read them. They belong to those who will carry them into the world, who will share them with others, who will let them grow and take root in the hearts of the oppressed. The knowledge contained within these pages will not be easily suppressed. It will find its way out, no matter how many fires the church sets. The printer takes a deep breath, his hands steady now as he prepares the pages for binding. The weight of what he has done sits heavy in his chest, but it is not the crushing weight of fear, it is the weight of conviction, of certainty. For he knows that the true power of knowledge lies not in its suppression, but in its spread. And as the last page is bound, the printer feels the first flicker of something beyond fear. It is hope, a hope that cannot be extinguished, no matter how dark the world becomes. As the night stretches on and the press continues to hum its quiet rhythm, the printer stands in the center of the workshop, surrounded by the fruit of his labor. The silence around him is no longer oppressive. It is a silence filled with the potential for change, a silence that speaks of revolution, of minds awakening, of chains breaking. In this quiet workshop, amidst the shadows and ink, the first seeds of a new world are being sown. And as the printer closes the door behind him, leaving the workshop to its darkened quiet, he knows that the journey is just beginning. The words are out there now, and though the darkness may come, the light of knowledge will never fade. At the far end of a narrow alley, shrouded in the shadows of crumbling buildings, a small shop stands in quiet defiance. Its windows are dark, shuttered against the world, as if it too wishes to remain hidden from the eyes of those who would seek to destroy it. The air is thick with the scent of damp stone and decay, a reminder of time's relentless march. The door creaks open with a slow, groaning protest, as though it too feels the weight of what is about to unfold. A middle-aged man steps into the faint light, his face worn, his eyes deep set with the weight of years spent watching the world change in ways he cannot control. His skin is weathered, his movements slow, but there is a quiet power in the way he carries himself, a power forged by decades of rebellion against the unyielding grip of the church. Behind him, in the dimness of the shop, a stack of forbidden books rises like a mountain, each one bound in the finest leather, each one brimming with knowledge that could unravel everything he has ever known. These books are treasures, not of gold, but of something far more valuable, ideas that can change the course of history if only they are allowed to live. He runs his fingers over the spines of the books, caressing them as one might touch the face of an old friend. There is a tenderness in his touch, but also a sadness. These pages, these sacred and forbidden words, are more than ink and paper to him. They are the foundation of his life, the lifeblood of his rebellion. They hold the secrets of ancient philosophies, of sciences buried by time, of histories erased by those in power. They are the hope of a future that has yet to come, and they are the weight that presses down on him now. The man breathes in deeply, his chest rising and falling with the unspoken knowledge of what these books represent. They are his life's work. They are the words he has risked everything to protect, to hide, to preserve. He has smuggled them from place to place, moving them like shadows in the night, keeping them out of the hands of the church, whose iron grip seeks to crush all that threatens its reign. The words within these pages are dangerous, too dangerous to be allowed to live. And yet, they are the truth, the knowledge that has the power to free the mind, to awaken the soul. But as the door creaks open, the weight of his secret presses down on him. He hears the distant echo of footsteps, the unmistakable sound of authority drawing closer. The authorities are coming. The whispers of betrayal are louder now. He can feel the heat of their breath on the back of his neck, and he knows that his time is running out. This small, hidden shop, this sanctuary of truth, will not remain safe for long. His heart tightens with the knowledge that the world is changing once again, and the walls he has spent so long building to protect these books are about to crumble. He thinks of the students who have passed through his door over the years, the curious minds he has mentored. Each one of them came to him seeking knowledge, seeking freedom. He remembers the fire in their eyes when they left his care, their hearts ablaze with the understanding of a world far bigger than the one they had been taught to believe in. Those books, those fragile, precious books, were never just pages bound together. They were the spark that ignited the flame of rebellion, the fire of freedom. They were the voices of those who had dared to question, to seek, to think for themselves. But now, as the door opens wider, he knows that this will be the last time he opens it to a young seeker. This rebellion, his rebellion, is about to be silenced. The words he has spent his life protecting will soon be lost, scattered to the winds, hidden away in the dark corners of the world. The fire he has worked so hard to kindle will be snuffed out by the cold hand of authority. The church will not allow it to burn any longer. And yet, as the man stands in the dim light of his shop, surrounded by the books that have been his companions, his thoughts turn to the ones who have learned from him. They are the ones who will carry this flame forward. The fire may be extinguished here, but it has already taken root in their hearts. It will spread, even if it must do so in silence, in secrecy. The knowledge he has passed on will live on in those who have been touched by it, in those who have felt its power. As the man turns to face the door, the sound of footsteps grows louder. He can hear them now, the footsteps of those who will seek to destroy what he has built. The time has come. He knows what will happen when they arrive, what they will do to him, to the books, to the very knowledge he has protected. It will be a final act of defiance, a last stand. But as he stands there, a sense of peace washes over him. His mission, his work, has not been in vain. The fire will not die. The knowledge will not be lost. The young seekers will carry it with them, and in time, the truth will find its way back to the light. The battle may be lost, but the war is far from over. With one final glance at the books, his books, he steps toward the door. The silence that had once felt like a burden now feels like the calm before a storm. It is the quiet before the world changes once more. He opens the door, and as it creaks wide, he knows that the weight of history is about to shift. What happens next may not be in his hands, but in the hands of those who have been set free by the words he has protected. And in that moment, as the door opens to the unknown, the man whispers a prayer, not for himself, but for those who will follow. May they keep the flame alive, no matter the cost. A heavy fog rolls over the battlefield, blanketing the earth in a damp, suffocating shroud. The ground beneath is soft, sinking slightly with each step, as though it too remembers the weight of the past. The whispers of ancient wars still hang in the air, their echoes reverberating across the field, the cries of soldiers long forgotten. The blood of countless lives once spilled here now feeds the earth, as moss and decay slowly swallow what was once vibrant with life and purpose. This is a place where history has bled into the very soil, and the past is not easily buried. At the edge of this forsaken ground, where kingdoms have risen and fallen like the ebb and flow of the tides, a lone figure stands. His silhouette is barely visible in the mist, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. His hands, stained with ink and weariness, bear the marks of years spent living in the shadows, crafting the forbidden, weaving the words that the church seeks to destroy. His eyes are tired, too tired perhaps for a man so young, but his heart, despite the fatigue, burns with the fire of conviction. This scholar, once a man of faith, has become something else. He is a heretic, a rebel against the very system he once served. The winds sweep across the desolate field, carrying with them the faint smell of wet earth and burning candles. At the farthest reaches of this forgotten land, a small chapel stands hidden beneath a canopy of trees, its stone walls crumbling, forgotten by time. Here, in the quiet darkness, a secret gathering is taking place. The air inside the chapel is thick with the scent of wax and ancient must, the warmth of the candles mingling with the weight of secrecy that presses down on those who gather in the shadows. The flickering light casts long shadows across the faces of men and women, their eyes alight with the hunger for something forbidden. Each one holds a banned book, its pages worn, its cover faded, yet inside lies a power that cannot be extinguished. These are not just books. They are symbols of defiance, symbols of the rebellion that has taken root in the hearts of those who dare to question, to seek knowledge beyond the boundaries set by the church. The words in these books carry the weight of history, of truth that has been suppressed for centuries. And yet, here in the silence of this chapel, in the midst of the gathering storm, they are more than just texts. They are weapons. The scholar, standing at the front of the room, watches the faces of those gathered before him. He sees in their eyes a reflection of his own journey, a journey fraught with fear, with doubt, but also with a deep, unwavering belief that what they are doing is necessary. These men and women are not just readers, they are warriors, armed not with swords or shields, but with ink and thought. The words they read, the knowledge they seek, are their weapons in a war that has been fought for centuries. A war not of blood, but of minds. A war for the right to think, to choose, to question the world as it is. The scholar raises his voice, though his words are barely more than a whisper. The room falls silent as he speaks, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 years of rebellion. Remember, he says, his eyes sweeping over the faces of those who have come to listen, these words will endure. No matter the fires the church will set, no matter the silence they impose, these words are immortal. They cannot be erased, for the truth is more powerful than any flame. These books, these forbidden thoughts, are the keys to unlocking minds that have been shackled for too long. The truth cannot be buried forever. As he speaks, the candles flicker, casting shifting shadows over the faces of the assembled. The warmth of the flame is a fleeting comfort, but the cold of the world outside still presses in. The scholar knows that what he is asking them to do is not without risk. To read these books, to speak their words, is to risk everything. Yet, in this quiet chapel, in this hidden space where rebellion takes root, the scholar feels a flicker of hope. This gathering, this moment, will not be the last. There will be others. The rebellion will spread, one mind at a time, until it cannot be ignored. The scholar watches as the group slowly begins to disperse into the darkness. Each person, carrying with them the forbidden knowledge, will now step into the world, knowing that they are a part of something far bigger than themselves. The flames they carry will not die tonight. They will burn brighter with each passing day. And though the scholar feels the weight of his actions, the knowledge that his rebellion will one day bring him to the authorities' door, that his body may one day fall beneath their hammer, the fire he has ignited will not be extinguished. He stands alone in the chapel now, the silence thick around him, but it is not a silence of defeat. It is the silence of something growing, something moving beneath the surface. The war for minds is no longer a whisper. It is a cry that will echo across time, that will not be drowned out by the flames or the silence that the church seeks to impose. As the last of the candlelight flickers and dies, the scholar takes a deep breath, his eyes closing for a moment. He can hear the distant call of the world beyond, the world that will one day hear the cry for freedom, a world that will one day rise up on the strength of the ideas he has helped to shape. He knows, in his heart, that though his body may one day fall, the rebellion he has ignited will live on. And with that thought, he steps into the darkness, ready to face whatever comes next. The words are out there now, and they will never be silenced.